Pokémon Radical Red is an extra challenging ROM hack of Pokémon Fire Red. It includes all Pokémon up to Scarlet and Violet, it has entirely new battles added, and all trainers have competitively viable Pokémon and teams. Today, I will be doing a Mono-type challenge and beating Radical Red with only Water-type Pokémon. There are a lot of crazy battles in this game that seem outright unfair, but the Water-type gives us access to a lot of great Pokémon, so let's get right into it. We start off our adventure by talking to Professor Oak, who asks us for our name, and we choose Colin. After that, he asks us to name our rival, and since we're using only water types, I decided to name him Grass. So with all that being decided, we set off on our journey. In Radical Red, we're given a choice of what region we want our starters to be from, so I choose Paldea for Quaxley. The rival always chooses the Kanto starter that's super effective against yours, so Grass starts out with the Bulbasaur, but with a couple tackles we're able to finish him off. Moving on, we're definitely going to need some upgrades to our team, so I catch a Simipour, a Psyduck, a Corphish, a Marill, and a Clamperl. While in Vernium Forest, we run into Brendan, who's a new rival in this game, but he's not very strong, so Quaxley's able to take him out by himself. Before leaving the forest, we pick up another team member, which is Surskit, and before fighting Brock, we actually have to fight the Gen 2 Flying-type gym leader Faulkner, who leads off with a Rufflet. We start out with a Quaxley, who's able to get him down low with a couple Aqua Jets, but then we switch into Clamperl, who I set up an Iron Defense with, and luckily Clamperl is very tanky, so we're able to trade some attacks, but Clamperl's able to get Flittle down with some Aura Beams. Wattrel comes out and takes out Clamperl, so I swap into Marill, who's able to get him down low with a Cavette, but he heals up with a Berry Juice and takes out Marill. I bring out Psyduck, who's able to do a little damage with Confusion, but ultimately falls as well. Panpour comes out and does good damage with Water Pulse, but Wattrel uses Roost to heal up, but Panpour is able to take him out, and also the Rufflet. With Faulkner down, we're able to go fight our first gym leader, which is Brock. He leads with an Alolan Geodude, who I'm able to take out with 2 Aqua Jets, and he sends out an Onix, who also falls to 2 Aqua Jets as well. His next Mon is Varoom, who poisons Quaxley, but with 3 Aqua Jets, Quaxley's able to take him down. Sadly, Quaxley dies to the poison, but Marill's able to come out and roll out Archon for our first gym badge. On our way to Mount Moon, we get some upgrades to our team. We evolve Quaxley into Quaxwell, and our Marill evolves into a Azumarill. After these evolutions, we made our way to the Pokemon Center outside of Mount Moon, where we pick up a Magikarp, evolve our Surskit into Masquerain, and evolve the Magikarp into a Gyarados. And last but not least, we pick up a Tympole. The Super Nerd is a double battle in this game, and he leads off with a Hisuian Voltorb and a Thwackey. His Thwackey sets up grassy terrain and fakes out the Quaxwell. Masquerain was able to get Thwackey low with an Air Slash so that Quaxwell can finish him off next turn with a Wing Attack. Voltorb was able to hang on with a Focus Sash, and he sends out a Bibarel. Next, I decide to Aqua Jet the Voltorb and Signal Beam the Bibarel. With Voltorb down, he sends out a Sableye. I get Bibarel low with a Aqua Jet, but Quaxwell falls to a Quick Attack. Next turn, I send out Azumarill, who takes out the Sableye with a Cavette, and Masquerain takes out Bibarel with a Signal Beam. And of course, we take the Helix Fossil. Before leaving the cave, we get jumped by Admin Archer, who leads off with a Glimmet that gets one shot by an Aqua Cutter. Next, he sends out Mightyena, who flinches us, but we get him low with Aqua Cutter before falling to a Bite. Next, I send out Azumarill, who's easily able to take out the Mightyena. His final Pokemon's Houndour, who falls just as easy. With our new level cap, we get access to some more evolutions, so we evolve Psyduck into a Golduck, and we evolve Tympole into a Palpitoad. In Sterling City, we run into Grass, who wants to test our new skills. He swapped Kirlia for Ivysaur, but a couple wing attacks are able to take him down. Staravia comes out, but dies to a lucky crit, but sadly Quaxwell dies to a Sucker Punch. I send out Azumarill, who's able to take out Ponyard with a couple Play Roughs, and Kirlia also falls to a Play Rough as well. On the next route, we pick up Lotad and save Bill. We also evolve the Lotad into a Lombre. We head back from Bill's, and we go to fight Misty, who's the second gym leader. She leaves with Frogadier, who has the ability Protein, which lucky for us caused him to turn into Grass type, causing him to fall to a Wing Attack. Her next Pokemon is Starmie, who takes out Quaxwell with a Slash Shock. I then send out Masquerain, who is able to stun spur her, and get her low with a Signal Beam, but then the next Signal Beam takes her down. Her next Pokemon is Floatzel, who I also paralyzed, but I'm not able to take him down with Signal Beam. I then send out Lombre, who with a combination of Fake Out and Absorb takes out the Floatzel. Her final Pokemon is Clodsire, who eats my Bubble Beam with his Water Absorb. I get some decent damage with a couple of Aura Beams, but I get taken out. Finally, Golduck comes out and wins us the badge. On the Ice of Sand, we run into Brendan again, who leads off with a Loudred. I lead Palpitoad to set the rain, and I get the Loudred low with a Muddy Water. I swap into Golduck, but he swaps into Crawdaunt, so then I switch into Azumarill. Azumarill gets Crawdaunt low with a Play Rough, and I finish him off with an Aqua Jet. Grovyle comes in and quickly takes care of the Azumarill, so I switch out into Masquerain, who Bug Buzzes for the kill on Grovyle. Next up is Lunaton, who takes out Masquerain, and then I switch out Gyarados, who's able to finish off his last 2 Pokemon. After the SSN, we go to upgrade our team a little bit, so we catch a Chinchou and a Wooper, and also a Wingull. We evolve the Chinchou into a Lantern, and the Wooper into a Quagsire. And finally, we evolve Wingull into Pelipper so we can get ready for Surge. Surge is a very big challenge for our water types, which is why we made such a big change to our team. He leads off with Pincurchin, who I get low with a Mud Shot, but he switches out to Bellibolt, who I also hit with a Mud Shot. Next, I swap into Pelipper to set up the rain, and I switch into Lantern to take the electric move. A Scald's able to get him pretty low, so he switches into Vikavolt, who gets burned. Vikavolt barely lifts a Scald, which is annoying, but Surge continues to use Rest, which gets rid of his electric terrain, but Vikavolt eventually falls anyways. He then sends out Palmot, who sees the kill with Mach Punch, but I send out Pelipper to tank the hit and set up the rain again. I then decide to send out Quagsire, who's able to tank the hits on Palmot and kill him off with a Mud Bomb. Surge's next Pokemon is Magnetric, which is definitely the biggest threat on his team. I'm not really sure what to do, so I send out a Pelipper, who takes a Hidden Power, then I switch right back out to Lantern, who's able to Volt Absorb the Charge Beam. Sadly, even with the extra HP, Lantern dies to Hidden Power. I send out Golduck to do a little bit extra damage with a Flip Turn, and I send out Pelipper to reset the rain. Pelipper gets taken out, and I switch to Quagsire, who also gets taken out as well. I send out Palpitoad, who's able to outspeed in the rain and lower his speed with a Mud Shot. Finally, I'm able to send in Golduck, who's able to kill him with a Psychic. He's also able to kill off the Pincurchin with a Psychic and the Bellibolt, giving us our 3rd gym badge. Heading to Erica, we get access to some new evolutions for our team. First, I evolve Palpitoad into Seismitoad, and next, I evolve Quaxwell into Quackalavel. I was pretty nervous heading to Erica with her grass types, but luckily she wasn't as bad as Surge. She leads off with Rillaboom, who sets a grassy terrain. I thought Azumarill would be able to do more, but Rillaboom easily takes him out. Next, I swap into Pelipper to set up the rain, but surprisingly, Pelipper one-shots with Air Cutter. I stay in with Pelipper to try to set up Tailwind, but I end up getting taken out. Masquerain gets brought down very low, but takes out Hisuian Electrode with a Bug Buzz. She then sends out Venusaur, who she Mega Evolves. I get off 2 flinches with Air Slash, but I guess there was a speed tie because he outsped me and killed me with Giga Drain. I then send out Golduck, who's able to kill the Venusaur off with a Psychic. Her next Pokemon, Meowscarada, is able to one-shot her Golduck. Quackalavel barely survives a Flower Trick, but is able to finish off Meowscarada with an Aqua Jet. Quackalavel goes down to our final Pokemon, and Ice Fang's able to finish off Meganium. I decide I want to change up the team a little bit, so I hatched a Froakie from an egg, and I evolved Lombre into Ludicolo, and I evolved that Froakie into a Greninja. Our next task is to get the Silphscope, so we raid the Team Rocket hideout and find Giovanni. From this point on, the game really opens up, because we get access to Dream Patches, which makes us able to get hidden abilities on Pokemon that we otherwise couldn't get them for. With access to this, 2 notable members of our team get access to their hidden abilities, which is Quackalavel, who gets Moxie now, and Greninja, who gets access to Protean. This battle isn't too tough, but it is pretty annoying with Hypno with Dark Void putting our Pokemon to sleep over and over again. I would also like to note that from this point on, the big boss fights of this game really start to increase in difficulty, so they all do take multiple tries to beat. But lucky for us, we get access to some pretty strong Pokemon, so with a little bit of trial and error, we're able to get through the boss battles. This Rocket Grunt continues to be very annoying with his Dark Void Hypno, but Golduck's able to take him out with a Water Pulse, and Quackalavel stays asleep and gets brought down as well. And finally, Granbull goes down to a Psychic. We made our way through the hideout and found Giovanni, who leads off with a Nidoking, and I set up the rain with Pelipper, but Pelipper gets brought down by a Thunderbolt. I switch in Golduck to get the kill with Psychic, but he switches out to Veluza, who tanks the Psychic, and I flip turn out, because I don't think Golduck can do much damage against this. I swap in Ludicolo, and Veluza brings down his HP very low with Flay Away, so I press Fake Out, and luckily survive on 1 HP and able to kill him off with a Giga Drain. Next, Giovanni brings out his Kangaskhan, which he Mega Evolves, and takes out Ludicolo with a Fake Out. Next, I bring out Quackavolt to do some damage with Brick Break, and then after that, I use an Aqua Jet, but it's not enough and I get taken out. To finish Kangaskhan, I switch out into Greninja, who's able to kill him off with a Dark Pulse. Next, Giovanni brings out Infernape, who I'm able to get pretty low with a Water Shuriken, but I'm able to finish him off with a Water Shuriken next turn. His next Pokemon is Orthworm, and I don't really have a good move in response to the Orthworm, so I just flip Shuriken out into a Azumarill. Orthworm then decides to Shed Tail substitute out into Honchkrow, but luckily we broke the substitute first turn and able to kill him off with a Play Rough. Giovanni switches right back into Orthworm and does the same exact thing by Shed Tailing substitute out into Nidoking. Azumarill was able to take out the substitute, but gets taken out by a Thunderbolt. Luckily we're able to switch into Golduck, who's able to one-shot with Psychic. His only Pokemon left is Orthworm, which is able to be easily taken out with Water Pulse. After beating Giovanni, we got access to the Silphscope, which let us free the Marowak Mother Soul, and after that we had to clean up some Rocket Grunts at the top of the tower and free Mr. Fuji from them. Next we head to Silphco to stop Team Rocket once again. But of course Grass is there to try to prove that he's stronger than us now. He leads with Staraptor, and of course I lead with Pelipper to set the rain. He swaps into Venusaur, who Mega Evolves and able to get him low with Air Slash, but Pelipper's put to sleep. But sadly he's taken out, so I swap into Greninja to kill with Ice Beam, but he switches into King Gambit. I don't really have a good answer for him with Greninja, so I flip turn out into Azumarill. Watching this back, I should have switched into Quackable for the 4x fighting weakness, but Azumarill with a Play Rough gets him pretty low, and I think I can get a kill with Aqua Jet, but he lives with just a little bit of HP, and another Aqua Jet finished the job. I thought maybe I could get the kill with Ice Punch, but Azumarill gets taken out. I switch into Greninja for the Ice Beam once again, but he switches out another time. And I do the same thing as last time, and I flip out into Ludicolo. I use Fake Out for some free damage, and after that I use Giga Drain, which is able to take out the Azumarill. He then comes back out with Staraptor, which takes out my Ludicolo with a Brave Bird, but Greninja's able to come out and one-shot with an Ice Beam. Next comes in Darmanitan, which almost gets taken out with a single Water Shuriken, but Greninja lives a Rock Slide and is able to finish the job on him, and now finally Greninja can kill off the Venusaur. On our way to fight Giovanni, we get ganged up on by both of the admins, but luckily Brendan is there to save the day. This is a double battle, so we're only able to select 3 of our Pokemon, but ultimately I decide for Pelipper, Ludicolo, and Greninja. Battles like this make me wish we had access to Megas, because they have 2 Megas and we have none. They lead off with Gothitelle and Incineroar, and there's a bunch of abilities going off at the beginning of this battle. I used Detect on Pelipper, but sadly Masquerain was faked out, so he couldn't move that turn. But Masquerain takes out Incineroar with a Scald, and I get Gothitelle low with a Hydro Pump. I use Detect once again, while Brendan Mega Evolves his Sceptile and takes out the Gothitelle with a Giga Drain. Next comes out Goldingo, and Sceptile is able to get Primarina low with a Mega Drain, but he gets taken out by a Make It Rain by the Goldingo. Pelipper finally gets brought down by a Shadow Ball, but Explode's able to kill off the Primarina with a Surf. Next, Ariana brings out her Mawile, which she Mega Evolves, but I'm luckily able to fake out the Mawile, and Explode gets him low with a Flamethrower. I decide to use Bubble Beam with Ludicolo, and Explode's able to finish off the Mawile with a Flamethrower, which was Ariana's last Pokemon, so Goldingo is left to fight alone by himself. It's a 2v1, so Goldingo gets brought down, and Archer sends out his final Pokemon, which is Mega Houndoom. He kills Ludicolo and burns the Explode with a Heat Wave, and I'm able to send out Greninja, who's able to get him low with Water Shuriken, and Explode finishes the job with a Focus Blast. With all those distractions out of the way, we can finally go fight Giovanni, who leads off with Hippowdon. I load with Pelipper to Hydro Pump the Hippowdon, and it gets him down, and he brings out Garchomp. I'm able to survive a Scale Shot, and I set up a Tailwind, but next turn, I Detect to try to wait out the Sandstorm. I know he's going to use Scale Shot, so I switch into Azumarill, who gets very low to an Earthquake, but it's able to one-shot with a Play Rough. Next, he brings out Kangaskhan, who Mega Evolves and takes out Azumarill with a Fake Out. I try to switch into Pelipper to set up Rain, but he dies to the rocks. Next, I swap into Quackable, who unfortunately gets paralyzed, but is able to go through it and one-shot with the Close Combat. With our lowered speed, Torterra is able to take us out, but I switch into Greninja, who's able to one-shot with Ice Beam. His next mon is Garganacl, so I flip turn out into Ludicolo. In this next part, it's pretty annoying because we both just are just spamming Giga Drain and recover on each other, and this goes on for a pretty long time, so I decided to speed it up even more, but it just keeps going and going and going. But luckily, he finally runs out, and Ludicolo is able to finish him off. His final Pokemon is Excadrill, which takes out Ludicolo with a Iron Head, but I swap into Golduck, who's able to finish off Excadrill with a Water Pulse. To thank us for running off Team Rocket, the Silphco President gives us a Master Ball. Our next challenge is Sabrina, who's definitely one of the most annoying trainers in this game, as she's a double battle, but she also runs the Trick Room team. Dark Pulse gets Indeedee low, while Quackable one-shots with Shadow Claw. I'm trying to think of the best thing to do in this situation, but I decide to switch out Greninja into Azumarill, and I use Close Combat on the Brute Bonnet to one-shot him. Her next Pokemon is pretty scary, because she has a Mega Gardevoir, which can do a lot of damage, but I decide to Shadow Claw it with Quackable, and luckily he one-shots him. Luckily we've gotten through most of this fight without Sabrina setting up Trick Room, since we've just been one-shotting all of the Trick Room Pokemon, but unfortunately we cannot have that luxury anymore as Porygon 2 comes out and sets up a Trick Room and kills off Azumarill. I'm getting pretty scared at this point because Trick Room is set up and Greninja gets one shot by a Thunderbolt and my Hydro Pump misses. I decide to Detect with Pelipper and Psychic the Porygon 2, which doesn't do much damage, but he teleports out into Ursaluna. I try to deal some damage on the Ursaluna, but unfortunately he predicts, and Indeedee takes out Pelipper with Expanding Force. Golduck goes down to a high horsepower from Ursaluna, and honestly at this point I thought the battle was over. But Ludicolo is able to finish off Ursaluna with a Giga Drain, and I Giga Drain the Indeedee for the kill, and he sets up Trick Room with Porygon 2, but a couple Giga Drains is able to finish off the battle. The next section of the game is complete New Radical Red, which is gym battle rematches. Before we can fight Koga, we have to rebeat the first 3 gym leaders. Missy has an Archelodon, which is definitely not a water type, but we'll let it slide. Before we're able to kill him off, she switches out into Gyarados, who Mega Evolves, but we're actually able to kill him off the Giga Drain. Ludicolo gets taken out by the Ferrothorn, who's definitely a water type, but Quackle is able to come in and finish him off. Palafin comes back in hero mode, but gets hit with close combat and Aqua Jet to get taken out. But Kingdra comes in and gets revenge for the Palafin. Luckily, Snipe Shot doesn't do a lot of damage, and Kingdra's able to get taken out by a Play Rough. Gorbis comes out, but Azumarill is able to eat some moonshots and take out the Gorbis, and Archelodon comes off and finishes off the Azumarill. Finally, Greninja comes in and Dark Pulses for the victory. Missy gives us Palafin and a Gyarados site, which we'll definitely take advantage of. Our next battle is Surge, who leads off with an Iron Treads, and I lead off with a Palafin, and I flip turn out into Quackable, who one-shots Palmot with a close combat. Quackable gets burned, but can still one-shot Red Wash with a close combat. Sadly, Quackable gets taken out by a Fake Out, so it's not Satsumatoad to lower Iron Hand speed with some Bulldozes. Quagsire is able to come in and finish off the job with an Earthquake, but I decide to leave him in there and die to a hidden power by Belly Bolt. Next I decide to send out Greninja, who can completely counter Belly Bolt with Protean Dig. I guess he'd rather Belly Bolt die than to switch out. With Belly Bolt down, he switches into Manectric, which he Mega Evolves, but Dig's able to do some good damage before I decide to switch out Greninja. I swap into Lantern, who takes the Flamethrower, and Scald's able to finish off the job. Lantern gets taken out by the Iron Shreds, but Palafin's able to come out and win us the battle. Up next we have Brock, who leads off with a Great Tusk. I use Slip Turn, which I use to switch out into Quackable, and he sets up Brock's. Wave Crash one-shots, which gets me a Moxie boost, and he goes out in Aerodactyl, who he Mega Evolves. I get him low with Aqua Jet, but he takes me out, and I switch into Pelipper to set up the rain. Pelipper goes down, but Palafin's able to come out and kill the Aerodactyl, and close combat the Amistar for the kill. Ursaluna barely survives and takes out the Palafin. Next I bring out Gyarados, who I choose on the Mega Evolve, so I can get a Moxie boost off on Ursaluna. With the boosted attack, Tyranitar goes down in one hit. His last Pokemon is Hisuian Arcanine, who easily falls as well. Heading into the Safari Zone, Brendan challenges to another battle. He leads the Metagross, so I flip turn out into Pelipper to set up the rain. Metagross blows up and takes on Pelipper with him. Quackle barely survives and brings down Metachan with a Shadow Claw. Brendan's next Pokemon is Sceptile, who he Mega Evolves and takes out Quackle with Earthquake. I thought Greninja could outspeed, but he gets bred out and dies immediately. Next I bring out Gyarados, who I Mega Evolve, but he gets scared and switches into Crawdon, who I get low with Crunch, but he takes me out with a Superpower. Palafin comes out and kills the Crawdon with a close combat, lives the Dual Chop and takes out the Sceptile with an Ice Punch, and finishes Explode with a close combat. And to finish Brendan, kills the Gardevoir. Our next challenge is up against Koga, who leads off with a Swallow. I lead with Gyarados, so I Mega Evolve, and I crunch Greninja until he dies. Next up is Iron Valiant, and I can't really safely switch into anybody, so I send out Ludicolo and fake him out, and then just sack him off. Next up, I send out Pelipper to set the rain, and I also set a Tailwind up as well. Air Cutter gets Iron Valiant really low, but Pelipper can't finish the job. Luckily, Quackable can come in and get the kill and get the Moxie boost. Drapion doesn't do much damage and falls to a Wave Crash. Swallow comes back out, and I debate if I should switch out or not, and I decide not to and hit Aqua Jet. I keep thinking about the die, so I keep hitting Aqua Jet, but somehow I kill both of them off. One less Aqua Jet gets Toxtricity pretty low, so I switch into Palafin, who gets killed by an Overdrive, and then I switch into Greninja to Shadow Sneak, live a hit, and Shadow Sneak for the win. Before fighting Blaine, we run into a trainer we haven't seen yet. May leads off with Sorok, and I start off with Pelipper to set the rain, and just like Brendan, she explodes, but I protect this time. Her next Pokemon is Flygon, which gets me with Draco Meteor, but Hydro Pump finishes them off. Pelipper brings the Relicanth low before finally dying. Ludicolo comes out and takes out the Relicanth before dying to the Mega Blaziken. I want to be careful because Blaziken can get out of hand very quickly, but luckily Palafin survives and takes him out with a flip turn. Her next Pokemon is Breloom, which is pretty annoying because she puts me to sleep with Spore and then sets up a substitute. Luckily, Quackable wakes up and breaks the substitute before dying. With the sub down, Greninja can come in and Ice Beam for the kill, and then with 2 Dark Pulses, Manectric goes down. Next up is Blaine, who should be an easy challenge for us with his fire types. I do my usual strategy of flip turning out with Palafin and switching to Pelipper to set up the rain. Next turn, Pelipper is able to take out the Armorage with a Hydro Pump. Its next mon is Slithering, which unfortunately takes me out before I can hit him with an Air Cutter. Unfortunately, Golduck can't kill and dies to a U-turn, but Slithering dies to its Life Orb. Blaine sends out Executor, who lives in Ice Punch, and then he switches out into Typhlosion. With Typhlosion out, I decide to swap into Gyarados to Mega Evolve, and he uses Aqua Fang, but he switches out to his own Ogerpon. Unfortunately, Gyarados can't do much to the Ogerpon, so I just end up sacking him off. I'm not really sure what to do against his Ogerpon, but I end up deciding to switch out to Quackable and press Aqua Step, but he switches out to Typhlosion, who gets one shot. His next Pokemon is Charizard, who he Mega Evolves into Charizard Y, and Quackable is able to live and kill him off with an Aqua Step. With +2 speed and +2 attack, I'm confident Quackable can take out the rest of his team. Quackable ends Ogerpon with a close combat, winning us our 7th badge. Before fighting 8th Gym, Brendan tells us we need to help him out in Cerulean Cave to take out Team Rocket. Deep in Cerulean Cave, we get jumped by both admins, and we have to fight them both back to back. This fight is very annoying because we have to fight 2 teams back to back without healing in between. I choose to set up a Tailwind and kill off the Mammothson with a Hydro Pump. Mimikyu sets up a Sword Dance, but I'm able to break his disguise and get him low with Hydro Pump. Luckily, Quackable can come in and kill him off with an Aqua Jet. Durant comes in Hone Claws. I Aqua Step for the speed boost and kill him off with an Aqua Jet. His final Mon, Mega Houndoom, takes 2 Aqua Jets before moving out to Ariana. Her first Pokemon is Hatterene, who wants to set up Trick Room, so I flip turn out with Palafin into Golduck. I'm really dumb here and set up some nasty plots, but I end up dying, but luckily I was able to waste some Trick Room turns. Next I send out Palafin, who's able to take out the Hatterene, and also the Honchkrow as well. Her next Pokemon is Mawile, who she Mega Evolves, so I swap out into Greninja to sack him off, and swap back into Palafin and hit him with a Jet Punch. It's looking pretty bad for me as she lives the Jet Punch. I swap into Quackable, the Aqua Jet, but she lives that as well. I decide not to Mega Evolve and finish off Mawile with Aqua Fang, and I also finish off Rhyperior as well. After the battle, they give me a lot of goodies and tell me to beat Giovanni once and for all. Giovanni catches Mewtwo, but luckily Lance is there to have our back, and we challenge Giovanni to a double battle. I ultimately decide that I want Palafin, Pelipper, and Gyarados on my team. Giovanni's team can be pretty annoying, as when you kill off his Mewtwo, it revives and Mega Evolves. Lance's Dragapult finishes off the Tapu Lele, and I flip turn out into Pelipper to set up the rain. I detect with Pelipper, and Dragapult gets Mewtwo down before falling. Pelipper goes down, but Dialga forces a Mega Evolution on Mewtwo. I send out Gyarados and Mega Evolve, and luckily he turns into a Dark type, so he resists the Expanding Force and gets Mewtwo low. Salamence comes out and kills off the Mewtwo, and Gyarados finishes up the Scrafty. We both target Tyranitar and take him out, leaving him down to just 2 Pokemon. Unfortunately, Gyarados falls to the Sandstorm, and I have to send out Palafin. Once again, we double teamed Excadrill, leaving Celesteela the last Pokemon standing. We whittle Celesteela down, and ultimately close combat finish the job, foiling Team Rocket's plans forever. Since Giovanni's done forever, you may be wondering who the 8th gym leader, and it's actually Claire from Gen 2. Claire starts out with an Aerodactyl, and I start out with a Palafin, and I flip turn out into Quackable. Quackable gets a kill on Aerodactyl, getting a Moxie boost, and she goes on the Gouging Fire. I get +2 speed with Aqua Step and kill the Gouging Fire with a close combat. She then goes into Roaring Moon, who I'm able to one-shot with close combat as well. She goes into Dragonite, and I decide to swap out into Pelipper to set up the rain. Pelipper's not able to do much as he gets taken out the next turn. Next up, I send out Palafin, who's able to get the Dragonite pretty low with an Ice Punch, but next turn, he finishes me off in Extreme Speed before I can kill him, but luckily the Frostbite takes him out. Our next Pokemon is Naganadel, who takes out the Quackable, and then I swap into Greninja. Luckily, Greninja can take a hit and finish off the Naganadel with an Ice Beam. Our final Pokemon is Magearna, who I'm able to do a little damage to before getting taken out. Luckily, the rain is still up, so I can go into Golduck and outspeed the Magearna, but Magearna barely lives with just a little bit of HP. Last but not least, I send in Gyarados, so I Mega Evolve and finish Magearna with an Aqua Fang. On our way to Victory Road, Grass challenges us to a battle once again. Grass starts off the battle with a Staraptor, and I start out with Palafin. Palafin is able to take a Brave Bird and deal some damage before I switch out into Quackable. Just like usual, we confirm the kill with Aqua Jet and get the Moxie boost on the kill. Next up is Sneasler, who gets me pretty low with a close combat, but after an Aqua Step and Aqua Jet, we take him out. His next Pokemon is Iron Bundle, who flip turns out into King Gambit, but unlucky for him, the +2 close combat one-shots him. At this point, I'm +3 attack and +2 speed, so I'm able to one-shot the Darmanitan with an Aqua Jet, but unfortunately for me, I didn't realize I couldn't outspeed and I get taken out. And then I send out Palafin, who suffers the same fate. I then decide to send out Greninja, who barely lives the freeze drive, but unlucky for me, Dark Pulse barely doesn't take him out, and I fall. At this point, my only hope is to set up the rain with Pelipper and switch into Golduck to outspeed the Iron Bundle. So with Pelipper down, I swap into Golduck, who's able to finish him off finally. His final Pokemon is Venusaur, who he Mega Evolves, but he barely lives, but his own Chloroblast takes him out. We beat Grass, but there's one more rival fight waiting for us before the Victory Road. Brendan challenges us to one last battle, and he leads off with Deoxys, and I lead off with Palafin, who I flip turn out. Just like normal, I flip turn out into Pelipper to set up the rain, and luckily Pelipper's tanky enough to live a hit and set up the Tailwind as well. Unfortunately, Pelipper can't take it to Deoxys because he's killed by an Extreme Speed. I know he outspeeds me in Extreme Speed, so I Aqua Step to get a boost in my speed. His next Pokemon is Galarian Zapdos, who gets pretty low to an Ice Punch and barely lives his own recoil damage. The rain is still up, so I swap into Golduck to Psychic and kill off the Zapdos. Next up is Huntail, who gets me pretty low with a Crunch, but after a Hydro Pump and another Hydro Pump, he gets brought down. Brendan sends out another Legendary and the Wishmaker Jirachi. With 2 Thunder Punches, he brings down 2 of my team members, and I switch into Greninja. Luckily, we live a Thunder Punch and get a crit on Dark Pulse, taking him out. Next up is Sceptile, who he Mega Evolves and takes out Greninja with a Skill Shot. My last Pokemon is Gyrados, who I send out and Mega Evolve, and I'm able to one-shot him with a Ice Fang. We have 1 Pokemon left before we can go fight the Elite Four, which is Landorus, who also gets one-shot by an Ice Fang. Brendan talks about how he's going to return to the Hoenn region and train with his dad, and we make our way through Victory Road and make it to the Indigo Plateau. But before fighting Elite Four, I wanted to make some upgrades to my team. I pick up a Primarina to help me in the Erica rematch battle. She leaves with Ogerpon, who I get down to sturdy with an Ice Beam on Greninja. Another Ice Beam takes her down, and she switches into Masquerader, who also gets one shot by Ice Beam. I didn't show it, but I also picked up a Blastoise with a Mega Stone, and I Mega Evolve him and take out the Holicha with a Water Pulse. A Dragon Pulse does pretty decent damage to Mega Venusaur before I get taken out with a Sludge Bomb. I send in Lantern, who's able to paralyze the Venusaur before going down to a Earth Power. I send out Greninja, who's able to do some decent damage with Ice Beam, but he gets taken out. Next up, I send out Quackable, who's able to do some decent damage, but in the end, it actually doesn't even matter because he restores back to full. I bring out Palafin, who flip turns out into Primarina, and I do some decent damage with Hyper Voice and Moonblast, but Primarina gets taken out as well. Palafin comes back out in Hero mode, and thanks to the Lucky Paralysis, we're able to take Venusaur out. Next out comes Lilligant, who gets one shot as well, and so does Sinistcha. Beating her gives us access to Ogerpon, and with a Wellspring Mask, we can make it a Water type. I hatch a Mudkip from an egg, and also pick up a Seadra. I evolved the Seadra into a Kingdra, and I also evolved the Mudkip into a Swampert. With these new additions, I'm more than ready to go fight the Elite Four. First up is Lorelei, who has her Rain team. She starts out with a Politoed and Ogerpon, and I team up both my Pokemon onto the Ogerpon, and we get Ogerpon pretty low. Next turn, Kingdra's able to finish off the Ogerpon, and my own Ogerpon is able to kill off the Politoed. Our next 2 Pokemon are Primal Kyogre and Iron Bundle. I Spiky Shield with Ogerpon and Dragon Pulse with Kyogre to do some pretty decent damage and also take a Thunder. I know the Iron Bundle will one-shot me, so I decide if I should switch out or not, but I decide to stay in and die, and Dragon Pulse to Kyogre again. We were able to get the Kyogre low, but Kingdra ends up dying, and I send out Quackalavel and Greninja. I use Grass Knot on the Kyogre and a Close Combat on Iron Bundle. Kyogre ends up getting taken out, and Iron Bundle gets down to a Sash. I would also like to note, I made Greninja Battle Bond, so that's why he's in Ash Greninja mode now. Quackable is able to take out the Iron Bundle, and Greninja is able to get the Wiping Wake pretty low. My new Mega is Mega Swampert. In this turn, I Grass Knot Swampert for his 4 times weakness, and the Greninja dies, and Swampert takes out the Walking Wake. Our next fight is up against Bruno, who leads off with a Shiny Infernape. I get him down to a Sash with Aqua Step, and another Aqua Step finishes him off. His next Pokemon is Zacian, and with a combination of Close Combat and Recoil, we get him down pretty low. I send out Pelipper to sacrifice him and set up the rain as well. Kingdra has Swift Stem, so I decide to send him out, and against Urshifu, I use the Snipe Shot to get him low, but the next turn Sucker Punch takes me out. Next up, I send out Swampert, who I Mega Evolve, and Power Up Punch for an attack boost. Next up is Komodo, who takes 2 Earthquakes before going down. Bruno's next Pokemon is Iron Valiant, who also goes down to 1 Earthquake, and the same goes for his last Pokemon, Mega Lucario. Next up is Agatha and her Ghost-type Pokemon, and she leads off with Gengar, who's actually Zoroark, who dies to 2 Aqua Steps. Her next Pokemon is Goldango, who I Aqua Step once, and an Aqua Step again for the kill. Her next Pokemon is Marshadow, who barely lives on 1 HP and takes on my Quackable. I thought I could outspeed with Greninja, so I sent him out, but I ended up getting taken out. So next I do what I should have done to begin with, and send out Pelipper to set up the rain. But surprisingly, Pelipper lives on 1 HP and takes out the Marshadow himself. Fluttermane comes out and kills off the Pelipper, and I think I can outspeed with Kingdra, but I die to a Moonblast. I then send out Swampert, who I Mega Evolve, and I'm able to one-shot the Fluttermane with a Liquidation. Her next Pokemon is Shinpao, who surprisingly lives in Earthquake, but the next Earthquake ends up taking him out. And to finish Agatha, Gengar goes down. And finally, the last member of the Elite Four, Lance, leads with a Garchomp. I lead with Pelipper to set up the rain and a Tailwind, and I'm able to finish off the Garchomp with an Ice Beam. Pelipper is able to do some pretty decent damage with Hydro Pump before falling to the Melmetal. I bring out Swampert, who I Mega Evolve and Power Up Punch for an attack boost, and finish the Melmetal with an Earthquake. Next up, Lance brings out a Dragonite, who barely lives in Ice Punch, and then takes out Swampert with an Extreme Speed the next turn. I bring out Quackable to hit an Aqua Jet on the Dragonite and get a Moxie boost. Next up is Iron Juggles, who I barely survive, but with a Ice Punch and Aqua Jet, I'm able to take him out. His next Pokemon is pretty scary. It's a Mega Salamence, but luckily Greninja's able to outspeed and one-shot with an Ice Beam. Greninja's able to Battle Bond and deal some damage before being taken out by a Roar Time. I do some pretty decent damage to Ogerpon before being forced out. Kingdra can outspeed and gets him down very low before dying, but Ogerpon's able to finish the job. We're finally at the champion, and it's Grass who's there staying in our way. I lead with Pelipper to set the rain, and he turns out into Yveltal. Yveltal is able to one-shot me with Dark Hole, and I swap out into Kingdra the next turn. Snipe Shot's able to do some pretty decent damage against him, but a Sucker Punch takes me out. Luckily, Greninja can come out, Ice Beam to get the kill, and Battle Bond. Next up is Miraidon, who absolutely destroys my Greninja with an Electro Drift. Luckily, we have Mega Swampert, who can outspeed in the rain and one-shot the Miraidon. Eternatus comes out and barely lives the first Earthquake, but then falls to the next Earthquake the next turn. His Ditto comes out, who imposters into my Mega Swampert, who luckily is 4 times weak to Grass, so I swap out an Ogerpon and Horn Leech at the one-shot. He then swaps into Metagross, who Mega Evolves, and we trade some hits before Ogerpon eventually falls. But luckily, Quackball is able to come out, Aqua Jet the Metagross, and then kill off the Pheromosa to win us the game. With the champion Grass down, we have officially beat Radical Red with only Water-type Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie, the Elite Four and the Champion took me so many different attempts and so many different teams that I thought I was never gonna beat it. But luckily, with the extra additions to our team, we're able to beat the Elite Four and the Champion to become the Kanto Region Champion. With that aside, this Monotype challenge was very fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you guys would like to see some more Pokemon related content, feel free to subscribe, and also don't forget to like the video. And if you have any ideas for any future videos you want to see, please leave them in the comment section below. This was Colin Does Pokemon, signing out.